Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the UDL is part of the Resent, the most entertaining droid in the world. It is me, it is me, it is R2D2. How we doing today, everybody? I hope you all are doing fantastic. So, here we are, doing yet another power ranking video, this time for the Underdog Draft League's Zacian Division. This is the division that should be a little more competitive versus the Herdier Division, which is where we got players coming in that are not experienced in doubles or just looking for more of a relaxed, fun setting, while Zacian is where the experience and the awesome is supposed to take place. So within these gradings, I've gone through each team and I've graded them off of this rubric. Again, this is a rubric that Ninjosh has come up with, and I've used in pretty sure all of my power ranking videos. We look at a number of different strategies. Big ones that I look at are Trick Room, Tailwind, Terrain, Weather, and some what I call miscellaneous. This is where like self-proc weakness policy, maybe clear body, stall tactics can fall into. Offensive and defensive pressure, like how how much do I need to target that Pokemon down? Whether it's because of the defensive options that it presents itself or the offensive options. Type spread. Do we have any overlapping types? Do we have any overlapping weaknesses? Do we have any negative splits? What I mean by negative splits is like, say you have more flying weakness than you do resist. Therefore, you'd have a negative split on flying. Special physical spread, literally just look at each Pokemon stats and count them off. The ideal spread with this rubric would be like a 5-5 count. So you have 5 physical, 5 special spread, 5 physical, and then 5 special attackers with a Pokemon that has the same stat in both special and physical. And then support. Does the Pokemon have options with like Yawn, Snarl, Intimidate, Fake Out, Tail Whip, Trick Room, like all this stuff that, oh, here's a move that helps this Pokemon get set up and do some work. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at our first team. The first team we're going to take a look at is the Hong Kong Blades, coached by Thunderball. So the Thunderball's team here has scored a 12 out of 18 points, going into half spreads. What I really liked about this team is they have a fantastic type spread, and on paper it doesn't really look like it puts out too much pressure though. That's where he kind of falls a little short at. Something that I would like to see is maybe Gourgeist getting swapped out for another Pokemon that might put out a little more offense, or something along those lines. One thing I am looking forward to seeing from this team is how they function with Clefable. Clefable in VGC is typically just a follow me support mon. Well, follow me is banned in this league, as is Rage Powder. So there's no redirection. So how are they going to function with Clefable without its one of its better moves? And again, this is Clefable, not Clefairy, so it doesn't even get Friend Guard. So really anxiously awaiting to see how Thunderball functions with Clefable and the overall team. I think there's a good amount of strategies here that you might be able to cover them all if you have the right matchup. The next team we're going to take a look at is the Coffin Smokers, coached by Trunks, who this team, according to my grade, scored a 12.5 out of 18 points. As you see, lots of twos, and then you sprinkle in a 2.5. Um, I know one thing that Trunks is really excited about with this team is the Solrock, Stoutland, Hippowdon. Apparently, there's some sort of synergy there. I had Stoutland in this league last season. That is my pup. That's my puppy. I paired it with Gigalith, and that dog put in a good amount of work for me. I'm curious to see how he runs with this team. One other thing that I want to highlight is he has a very interesting core with Guzzlord, Sonotic, Buzzwole, Soul Rock. Like he's got a couple of good options here. Like Sonotic is a poor man's Amoonguss with that extremely low base speed. Plug that in as your anti-trick room on to help you stall out turns. And then you pull out, put the metal to the pedal, and get a couple of KOs. Um, One thing that I would look at if I was Trunks would be maybe Magmar or maybe even Persian. Granted, though Persian's really good for tier 4 for support types. Uxie looks good as a tier 2. I don't know what options are out there, but it's a good solid team. And in Trunks' hand, this team should do very well. The next team we're going to take a look at are the Success Sableye, coached by Ruby T. This team scored a 13 out of the 18 points. The type spread being arguably the biggest knock on the team, just that it had a lot of overlap, missing types, and didn't really have it had a lot of negative splits. So maybe look in and see if there's some free agent transactions that you can do to help shore that up. And you could easily see this team climb up to like the 15. One thing that I really did like was again the physical special spread was almost perfect. And there's a good chunk of strategies here. You got Tailwind, you got Trick Room, you got Weather. Um, you're missing on terrain, which with Clawitzer that'd be really awesome. But I think Ruby's gonna have a good team here on his hands to work with. The next team we're going ahead and take a look at is the Perth Scorches, coached by Jaden. This team scored 13 and a half points. Notice the just the tight group of these scores. I mean, your lowest was a 12. We'll see how hard we go. There's a with a lot of these teams, what we were kind of hoping for with this format is there's not really a weak link in this team. In other leagues, I could see any of these teams putting in work with these types of scores. But let's see. The Central Scorches, great type spread, good physical special spread, good support options with Ninetales. On Pheasant, I actually think it's a little slept on as a tailwind setter, especially in this format where a lot of the priority tailwind is gone. The one thing I'm really looking forward to seeing is seeing how Jaden works with the Sudowoodo. I don't recall ever really seeing it function in VGC. When I see Sudowoodo, I think more of the trading card game versus video. So I'm curious to see where that one rolls. And then Hydreigon. Hydreigon is the number one as the first round pick for this team. I think they did a good job of putting the right pieces around it. So the next team we're going to take a look at is the Pittsburgh Steel Titans, coached by Rhett. They tied with Jaden with 13 and a half points. What as you see again, lots of twos, and you sprinkle in some 2.5s. That physical special spread really helps this team out. Strategies. This is possibly the hardest weather mode team that we've got in this league with Ninetales, Vileplume, and Healess kind of playing the parts of Groudon, and Venusaur, and Charizard in kind of the weather mode that's running rampant in VGC right now. with Solar Power, Chlorophyll, and Drought. And I've seen Ninetales and Helilist put in work with just Heat Wave spread. Sorry, that was Charizard, not Helilist. But I've got Helilist in another league. Fantastic Pokemon with base 109 speed. I feel like that might be the sleeper pick on this team. The one thing that I would look at is check out Tier 4 for a better Pokemon other than Orbeetle. And I say that because Orbeetle, doing a quick run through, is your main Trick Room setter, and at base 90, it's not gonna want to work in Trick Room unless you go Iron Ball or Trick Room Room Service. But at that point, you're wasting an item on what you're hoping to be your Trick Room sweeper. So that's where I would look at. The next team we're gonna take a look at are my team, the Seattle Superlax. Again, as you notice, not the best team on this here, so you know that I'm being partial. And that's one of the reasons why I really like using the rubric, because numbers don't lie. So the Seattle Superlax team scored a 14.0. Strategies and synergies, I think, are top notch on this team. I'm really excited to see where things go. I've got a couple tricks up my sleeve, but that's kind of all I will leave at that point. Entei, was really torn on whether to go Entei or Suicune for first pick. I'm really glad and happy that I went with Entei. But we got Entei, we got Vanillix to set the weather, we got Archeops for Tailwind, we got Slowbro and Delmines for Trick Room mode, we got Vanillix and Walrein for weather mode. So I think I've checked a lot of boxes when it comes to the strategy. The one thing that I could probably work on the most is even work a little bit on the type spread and a little bit more of support, which by the time week 2 rolls around, you'll see that I've addressed that with a planned free agent transaction. You guys are paying attention and seeing what's going on. But I'm really excited. I feel like this is possibly one of my best drafts that I've ever done. I'm really excited to see what happens. The next team we're going to take a look at are the Campana Cellos, coached by Embers, who scored a 14.5 points. What really held this team back was the again the type spread, because this the Rets team, the steel type that said was possibly the hardest weather mode. This is the only reason why it's not the hardest. You can make an argument for one or the other. You've got Scyther, Manectric, even Purloined, Pelipper, Marowak, Quailfish, all kind of to work in a rain. You've got a good rain mode here, and that's why the synergies dropped a little bit. But again, because all these Pokemon like being in rain, hurt the type spread a little bit. But again, very solid team. Burst is a very solid player. You see a couple of threes on the board. So something that I would look at if I was Burst here, is you're not going to be able to upgrade on Bronzor. That's tier 4. Maractus, I think, is a good tier 4 for this team. Maybe Purloin for a tier 3. Granted, though, that's basically your Cottony. I can see how that is the main cog that makes this machine run. But yeah, so let me maybe just look at free agents to see what tier 3s are available and maybe switch out Manectric. Or even look at switching out Marowak. Having two Lightning Rod users probably isn't going to hurt much, but it's still maybe something to look at. The next team we'll take a look at is the Tennessee Talonflames, coached by Toxic Crusader, who also brought in a score of a 14.5. The thing I see here, Blacephalon with Indeedee and Slurpuff. We saw that on Rolo's team, who scored 15 out of 18 points. So the other picks here, obviously, or maybe just another day, another dime, another perspective, fell a little bit short here with this mode. The things that I would look at to possibly upgrade is Audino. I had that in another league. Very underwhelming. Granted, though, Toxic's a better player than I am, so he'd probably be able to work with it. And then Magneton and Doug Trio Alolan. Again, these are all tier fours. So if you've got dead weight in a tier four slot, I don't think it's that big of a deal. One thing I am anxious to see is again comparing his team to Rolo's. How are they going to function with that Blacephalon as their tier one support with Indeedee? I mean, are they just going to expanding force spam all day? Um, yeah, I would have. I One thing that I would look at is maybe find a flash fire Pokemon for that mind blow. Somebody that doesn't mind getting hit with that fire type attack. Oh, just an idea. So the next team that we'll take a look at is the Nova Scotia Scythers, coached by Tiny Gambit King. Brought in a score of 15.0. Um, the one thing that I think would really have made this team better is honestly that tier one. Comfey, I know if I remember correctly, he was under the impression that it got Tailwind, which it did in previous generations. Not here, not in this format. Um, if it got Tailwind, his team would be, I think, a little bit better. But again, it synergizes very well. It's got good type spread. It's got fantastic physical special spread. Um, Pressure is probably the weakest link here. Is Comfey puts on good offense, good supportive support. Him on top, same thing. Drapion puts on good, I think, defensive pressure because of the typing. Scyther, even if it's a Eviolite Pokemon or not, puts on good offensive pressure. Xcloud, I just saw it put in some work on a match. Wouldn't be surprised if Gambit wouldn't be able to figure something out. Ultras puts on good pressure. Duraludon. So there's good pressure here. It just isn't enough. It's not enough pressure. Now, granted, you could also use that in your favor, where it's like, oh, am I gonna go into slot A or slot B? When there's not enough pressure, you don't know which spot you're gonna go into, which makes the reads harder or easier. Depends on the perspective of the team. But again, it's the tied for the third highest score, and the team that they tied with is the Sanston Skizzers, coached by Wolfender. Um, Again, scored 15 points. Fantastic strategies. Basically checked all the boxes. Good synergy. I feel like a lot of the pieces work interchangeably with each other. Um, Again, that pressure. There's some options there that I think could be a little more, like Scraggy, Stunfisk, nothing. But then again, though, they're tier fours. But then again, at least Armory and Greedent kind of put on that defensive pressure. Um, Gudra is the mon that makes this team run. And also, do not sleep on Thunderous Theron. I've looked into this team. Thunderous Theron. Do not sleep on this Pokemon. Don't sleep on Gudra. Those two are gonna put in some good amount of work. And again, I think Wolfie here has done a good job of surrounding those pieces with Pokemon that are gonna allow it. And coming in at the second highest score is our reigning champion from season one, Sasso, the coach of the Greedy Greninjas. What really hurts this team is that type spread. So the type spread of this Pokemon team is what really hurts it the most with Not one, not two, not three, but five types being 5 types are missing. And then you've also got 3 overlaps and then a negative spread on 5. Those numbers isolated wouldn't be horrible. Put them all together, it it's gonna help the opposing team kind of narrow down. Okay, how do I want to approach this matchup? Then again, that also helps Cecil if he's thinking that next step level, where it's like, oh, they're channeled in on here. I got pieces to counter. So because again, there's a lot of fighting weakness here. There's a decent chunk of ground weakness here. Ice somewhat, fire somewhat, but he's got answers to combat those. I think this should be helpful. And then the team with the best scoring out of our rubric is the Garden Guzzlords, coached by Bubble Hulk. This team scored 17 out of 18 points. Highest scorer out of all 24 of the teams that all the 24 teams that we have done a PR for. There's lots of strategies here. I think everything meshes really well. There's even a good mixture of offensive and defensive pressure. He had Bubble Hulk has a lot of the boxes checked when it comes to type spread. Like these are all the stuff that I've said about the other teams is either it's really good or it's lacking. Garden and Guzzlords cover it. Only thing that I might add to this team would be to look at that physical special spread. Again, we're nitpicking here because again, 17 out of 18 points. I don't know if it's humanly possible to build a team where it's a legit threes across the board. And if there is, then we need to update the rubric because there is no such thing as a perfect team in draft. On the rubric, this is about as close as we're going to see for a while. But that being said, Bubble Hulk, you've got a fantastic team here. You should be really proud of how this team came about. One thing I would look at is maybe get a true blue way to set the weather or seismic. Other than that, I'm kind of at a loss. I'm really excited to see what you're able to do with this team this year or this season. But that is going to be it for this PR video. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I know this is my second video I've done in like 2 days, but I do not plan on doing consistent content quite yet. I'm still trying to figure out a schedule and life that allows me to. I do miss this. I appreciate the support that the Herdier PR video got. I appreciate the support that this video is going to get / has gotten. Um, but without further ado, see you guys next time. Bye.